Okay, in lesson 2, we're going to be looking at the area of right triangles. Now, if you recall from yesterday, we said that a right triangle is a triangle that includes a right angle or a 90-degree angle. So an idea of this would look something along these lines. That right angle needs to be there. So the first examples ask you to plot some points. So the points that were asked to be plotted were 1, 3, 1, 7, 8, 3, and 8, 7. Okay, so we would go over 1 up to 3, over 1 up to 7, over to 8 up to 3, over to 8 up to 7. Now you'll notice we have created a rectangle. Now yesterday we reminded ourselves to find the area of a rectangle, you would do length times width. So if I look here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would be doing 7 times 4, which would give me 28. So if I wanted to find the area of a right triangle, one thing I could do is take this rectangle and draw a line from one of the corners diagonal to the other corner. Notice I have created 2 equal-sized right triangles. If I wanted to know the area of each of these triangles, all I would have to do is take the area of the rectangle and divide it by 2. I have split it in half on a diagonal, so the area of each of these would be 14. Okay, let's look at another one. So they were also asked to plot 0, -4, 0, -6, -8, -4, and -8, -6. Okay, so 0, -4 means I don't move over any, and then I go down to -4. 0, -6, don't move over any, down to -6. -8, -4 is over to -8, down to -4. -8, -6 would be over to -8, down to -6. Again, I've created that rectangle. Okay, to find the area, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 1, 2. So area equals length times width, or 8 times 2, which is 16. Again, if I wanted to create some right triangles, I could split it in half on the diagonal, not the best diagonal line there. And that creates 2 right triangles. To find the area of each one of those, since I split it in half, I would just take my area and split it in half. So each one would be 8. So now this is kind of the idea of where we get the area of a triangle formula. Notice we've taken the area of a rectangle and divided it by 2, or split it in half. So when we talk about rectangles, we talk about length and width, but we can also refer to the length and width as the base and height, and that's what we refer to it as with triangles. So in other terms, if I had the area of a rectangle, which we actually use this term with parallelogram, I have base times height. So to find the area of a triangle, what I did was I split it in half. So there's a couple of ways you can split something in half. One of them is what we did here, which was to divide by 2. So I could take this and divide it by 2, which I would write this way, base times height divided by 2. So that's one way of doing this formula. To split something in half, you can also multiply it by 1/2. So dividing by 2 and multiplying by 1/2 are the same thing. So you may see the formula written this way, 1/2 times the base times the height. Both of these are acceptable to use. Sometimes one may be better than the other to use, and we'll see some examples of that coming up. So those are the two formulas we're going to be looking at today with some of our examples. Okay, so again, I'm just going to transfer those two formulas over here so that we have them to look at on this screen. Okay, so it asks us to find the area and perimeter of the following triangles. So this we're going to kind of just split in half here, this screen. So we need to first find our base and our height. With a triangle, it's the same idea as a parallelogram with the base and the height. The height has to come out of the base at a right angle. Since this is a right triangle, we have our built-in right angle here. So what that means is our base and our height are at either end of that little square that we use to show the right angle. So we've got our 8.5 and our 10. The 12.5 is just another side length that we can use for our perimeter, but it doesn't have anything to do with our area because it's not connected by that right angle. So we can use the base times height divided by 2 here. In this case, I would do my 8.5 times my 10, and then I'm going to divide that by 2. To multiply a decimal by 10, you just move the decimal to the right once. So I would do 85 then, because if I move this over once, it puts it at the end. And then divide by 2. Notice how I have written my formula. I have replaced the variables with the numbers from the problem, and then I'm using the order of operations to solve this. I would do multiplication before division, because we would work left to right or top to bottom. So 85 then divided by 2 is going to give us 42.5, and that's going to be square centimeters. You could also write this as 42 1/2. Either one is acceptable. They're both equivalent. Now for perimeter, I need to add all the sides together. So side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3. So this is where I do need that extra side length here to help me get my answer. So it doesn't matter which order. This commutative property says doesn't matter which order you add in, you'll still get the same answer. We're going to add all 3. You can either pop all 3 in your calculator, pull to the side and show your work. Whichever way you do it, you should wind up with 31 centimeters. Now perimeter is a length, so it is just centimeters, not square centimeters. Remember, with area, that means this many squares of a certain size would be able to fit inside the triangle. Okay, so the next one is a little different. This one says a triangle has an area of 36 squared centimeters. If the base is 12 centimeters, what is the height? Now, with these types of problems, I typically use the 1/2 base times height formula for it. I don't know why. I think that's just the way I was taught. But we can look at both ways. So I'm going to show you the way that I would do it first. So 1/2 base times height. I'm just using the other formula here. The area is 36. I'm going to do 1/2 times 12, which is the base, and then I don't know the height, so times h. In this problem, there's math I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and do the multiplication. So 36 equals. Now I read 1/2 times 12 as 1/2 of 12. So what's half of 12? 6 is half of 12. If you weren't sure, you could pull to the side and do 1/2 times 12 over 1. 12 over 2 is 6. Okay, and then I get my height here. This is a multiplication equation, so I'm going to use division or the inverse operation to solve for it. I am going to divide both sides of the equation by the number that's attached to the variable. So I'll divide both sides by 6. These two cancel each other out, leaving me with h, and 36 divided by 6 is 6. Okay, so my answer would be 6 centimeters. Now we can do the same thing with the other formula, base times height divided by 2. It's really the same idea here. Replace. So I would be doing 12 times h over 2. In this case, I would divide to get that 6h, divide both sides. So So either way, whichever way works better for you, they're both fine.